Hello, everyone. We're live here in Cape Verde, where the ECOWAS election observation mission is currently here to observe the Cape Verde parliamentary elections. As we have here with us Senator Edwin Melvin Snowe, who is a senator of Verde County there in Liberia and also a member of the ECOWAS election observation mission. And he's going to tell us the purpose of this entire observation, of which we are here in Cape Verde. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Snowe, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you. Glad talking to you.
Great. We're in Cape Verde. First of all, how is it so far?
Well, peaceful, very, very peaceful. So in our ECOWAS member state, Cape Verde has the best record for democratic credentials. The elections have all been very peaceful. The elections have been very transparent. The outcome have been accepted by all parties. So we look forward to a peaceful election. Yes, there's no perfect democracy or perfect system, but so far Cape Verde has proven to be one of our best. So we look forward to a repeat of what we know them to do.
Speaking of looking forward to, tomorrow is election here in Cape Verde, which is May 17. You met with some of the political candidates. Care to tell us the outcome of that meeting?
So in the last 2 days, we've been meeting with members of the ruling establishment and the opposition. Yesterday, we met with the president of the republic. Today, we met with 4 opposition political parties. They've expressed their own concerns. Some of the parties claim that there's been vote buying so far. I think what the government did today was they had queues where citizens were allowed to go and do free shopping. First time that's happened, the opposition is claiming that that's vote buying. There have been over 200 cases reported of electoral violence and electoral malpractices at the National Electoral Commission. They have adjudicated, I think, about almost over 100 according to them. They have, I think, like 14 or so still pending. Few of them still at the level of the Supreme Court. So this election seems a little different from what has happened in the past. And we're just praying that Cape Verde don't change the envelope record. Everyone respect them. Everyone know that their democratic credential has been excellent. But in this case, there have been some reports of foul play.
So they said.
According to the opposition leaders, the ruling establishment said it's just the government way of preparing the citizens to get ready for elections, to make sure there's food room, to make sure they have basic supplies. The opposition said that's a way of buying votes. So again, we have yet to see what is happening, how it's happening, and then we can make a determination after the elections.
Speaking of their democratic credentials, Cape Verde, as you highlighted, has always been peaceful, right? But why it's ECOWAS? Why is this mission of ECOWAS here in Cape Verde so essential to the region?
So what we do in every election, in every member state, we send observation mission in every member state. Whether it's peaceful, whether it's, they don't have the credentials, we still send observation mission there. Our mission is not to monitor, it's not to preside over the election. We only observe and then report after the election. We come to the country to give our support, to take them along with what we want to do or what they want to do, not what they want to do. So agree Cape Verde has good credentials, but we still come. Because at the end of the day, it's also good for confidence building. Because like today, the politicians, the opposition was able to come and speak to us to tell what was happening. Now, if there's no ECOWAS, if there's no AU, who do you talk to? So like the AU have 35 men observation mission here. ECOWAS has about 105 to 110. We have long-term observers, we have short-term observers. And we'll be here in the next. Tomorrow is the election, so by Tuesday we'll do our preliminary declaration as to the conduct of the election, not the result, but the conduct of the election. Cape Verde always have the election result ready within just few hours after the election. They've always been on top of that. So we'll see tomorrow what's going to happen. From all indications, we know that this election is very competitive, but we look forward to seeing a peaceful process.
You spoke of the observers who are currently here. What exactly are they looking forward to observe?
Observe the conduct of the election. So, what time did the polls open? Was it did the polls open on time? Was there enough security? Was there enough visibility? Was there enough education on voters? Voter education. Were the polls accessible to the disabled? Were there women and children voting age, given the time to vote? People with babies, were they given? So we look for all those kind of issues on how people conduct themselves for the election. So, and we do a report. So we do a report and then do comparative analysis of the region. So then we can tell at the end of the day, okay, in this country is this way, in that country is this way. So, for example, Cape Verde now going to a system where the voter roll is updated automatically. So you don't have to, like Benin did the same thing. You don't have to go to a booth to register. To go to our office to register to have a voter registration. Once you get 18 years old, you automatically get on the voter roll. So these are things that happen in countries like Cape Verde, it's happening in Benin, and once you get married and you go to the marriage registry, your name is changed, it's also changed on the voter roll. Once there's death certificate issued for you, your name gets off the voter roll. Very interesting. So Cape Verde has a very, very good system that we're trying to see how best we can study it and then see how we can implement it. That's why when I saw the co-chair of the Liberia National Elections Commission here also, Madam Tikla Williams, Councillor Reeves, I was very excited because some of these things are good for knowledge sharing so that we can also take it back to our country and see how we can do it. And also in Cape Verde, there's no trucking. So, yeah.
So, based on what you've observed, what would you say the Cape Verdean, in terms of preparation as per the observations, what would you say, are they ready for the election?
Oh, yeah. So they're fully ready. They have 10 islands or so that voting will be taking place on. So they've sent all of the voting materials to all of the centers. We have long-term observers on all of those islands. They've reported to us. I'm excited that you are from LBC, Liberia State owned. You'll be covering with us tomorrow. So we have teams that we set around. So, for example, I'm the head of the ECOWAS Parliament delegation to this election, working along with the head of mission. So we will be on a team tomorrow that you will cover, but we go around to like 3-4 centers and then we come back to our situation room. And in the situation room, we get feeders from all of the areas. So throughout the country, we have a board. So we're going to know what's happening on every island, how people are voting, what they turn out like, what's happening, if it's peaceful, if there's security presence, if it's accessible, if there's privacy to your ballot box, the ballot papers. So we're going to be monitoring everything from the situation room. And then in like 3-4 hours, we're going to go back on the field, see what's happening on the field, come back to the situation room. And then at the close of polls, we're going to come here, follow up the voter turnout, if the turnout was good enough, what's happening. But we'll have people in all of the islands, and they'll be feeding into the situation room, telling us what is happening. We'll also be visiting other centers that are here that have situation rooms to know what is happening around there, so we can do comparative analysis as to what's happening in our room and what's happening out there.
So it's going to be pre-explained and post-explained?
Yes. So your first thing is that what time did the polls open? When was the first ballot cast? What happened by midday? You're going to know what happened by midday. What happened after? What happened when the polls closed? Then you get the the first wave of results that start coming in. So you have sampling from all of the different islands as to which direction is going, because we need to also study the wave. It's a very, you will like it. I'm excited. The things will be things we don't see in Liberia. And when I came in, so excited, extremely excited. So I'm happy that Liberians back home will be able to follow the process, how it works here, see what's happening, and then see how we can contribute to our own electoral process back home.
Speaking of contributing to our own electoral process back home, we know that Cape Verde is often praised for its democratic stability, right? So, what can ECOWAS state or region, specifically Liberia, learn from that?
We can learn a lot. So in West Africa now, there are only two countries that have never had coup d'etat, and that's Cape Verde and Senegal. So Liberia, as you know, we have our own dark days. Liberia has left those dark days. We have a vibrant democracy where we have the ruling establishment, we have opposition. There are no political prisoners in Liberia. People can freely express themselves. They can be rebutted, or there's a counter, and nobody's running after you. The security situation in Liberia is pretty good, There's no form of intimidation. So Liberia has its own. Liberia, we can boast. I mean, fortunately in ECOWAS, I chair the Political Affairs Committee, and I've observed and headed the ECOWAS mission to every ECOWAS member state. I've covered election in all member states. By law, I cannot cover Liberia because that's my country. I have stake there, right. But I've covered all the other countries, and I can tell you that Liberia's system is pretty good. I think all we need to do now, some countries, for example, you have a day before the election where all the security apparatus, the electoral staff go to vote. So everyone that have to do with the election, they go to vote on that day, and then the following day they are deployed and take part in the elections. We don't do that in Liberia. In Cape Verde and most other countries, the issue of trucking is not common. It's very common in Liberia because in Cape Verde and other countries, you have to elect the person who will make decisions for you, not get paid to come in another person's constituency or county and elect the person there. We still need to work on that in Liberia. Also, in some jurisdictions, the presidential ballot is one constituency. So, for example, if you register in Montserrat and you got assigned to Maryland and it's election day, you don't have to go back to Montserrat to vote for the president. You can vote for the presidential candidate anywhere in Liberia. So in some countries like that also. So there are some things we can learn from our other countries, but relatively the level of transparency in our electoral process is fairly good, and it's something that other countries would also love to follow.
We must learn not to truck.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things in Liberia, trucking has been a major issue in Liberia, and I don't know if any of us are innocent, but it doesn't make it right.
Are you innocent?
That's why I say I don't know if any of us are innocent. So we all have history of doing that, but it doesn't make it right. I think we need to put a stop to it. It doesn't reflect well for the constituency you want to represent or the people you want to represent. Vote buying is also not a good thing, and it's been practiced here. We're hearing for the first time. There are some countries we've gone to where we heard about ballot being stuffed. That's not ordinary. That's not common in Liberia. People watch the ballot. People pay attention to the ballot. In most countries now, they're doing electronic transmission of the results. We're doing that in Liberia, but not at a greater scale because people the NEC still reads from the different counties, so it's being transmitted electronically to the NEC office. We just need to improve on it. Biometric process, we're not there yet. I think we need to increase our telecommunication output so that people can be able to use the biometric system. Some countries like Benin, like Senegal, like Cape Verde, you just need your national ID card, and once you go into the system, your name is there on the voter roll. We're not there yet in Liberia. Also in Liberia, whether it's because of commercial or because of efficiency, we still have NEC doing its own registration, and the National Registry doing its own registration. That's millions of dollars you're talking about that going into the system, because the NEC needs something like $11 to $15 million just to do voter registration for election that lasts for 6 years. So in 6 years later, they're going to come back for another 15 or more $1 million to do that. If you invested that money in the national registry, you can have people registering for citizenship, and that same information could be used for NEC. But again, sometimes people get very territorial. People want to protect their turf. But I think those are things we need to learn from other countries.
I reckon with you. You spoke of representation, yeah? That brings my attention to you being a Liberian senator. What does Liberia's participation represent?
Well, we do a lot. Over the last few years since we joined ECOWAS, again, we're not going to beat our own drum, but there were times when, for example, Liberia had no Liberian was at the ECOWAS Parliament. Absolutely no Liberian there. Today we have about 5 Liberians at the ECOWAS Parliament. There are more Liberians at the level of ECOWAS, you know. We've been able to work in other member states because they were working in our country, we work in their country. Liberia is not an island. When we have a crisis, it was ECOMOC, which is a child of ECOWAS, that went into Liberia and helped us to restore peace. When we have a crisis, it was ECOWAS who hosted the different accords, the Akusumo Accord, the Yamoussoukro Accord, the Accra Peace Accord. It was all under the auspice, the Banjul Accord that brought Dr. Sawyer to Liberia as president. Those were all under the auspices of ECOWAS. So today, every time I go into another ECOWAS member state and I'm working for ECOWAS, I feel fulfilled because I know they did for us, so that we can do it, especially heading the Political Affairs, Peace and Security Committee of ECOWAS, which I have other people did for my country. I feel very good doing it here. So every time I go to those meetings, like yesterday when I met the president here, and I said Liberia, you know, he started talking about President Tobo. You know, President Tobo has a very strong history in Cape Verde, very strong history. The matter of fact, if you ever heard, I don't know if you're born, but if you ever heard about one Santo Marias and all of those are people that Tobo took from Cape Verde into Liberia. And the president of Cape Verde was talking about Liberia and Cape Verde relations yesterday just when I greeted him. So it's a good feeling, you know, when you go to these countries and you hear people talk about it. You're either talking about Ellen Johnson Sirleaf or Torbot or, you know, and which means a lot for our country. So again, representation has been good. I wouldn't say the glass is full yet, but definitely it's not half empty. The glass is half full.
How would you say is it important for Liberian institutions to remain engaged with ECOWAS activities or observations? Because you mentioned that you were quite excited that we were part of this and other Liberian institutions. How would you say is it important?
So for every ECOWAS elections, we invite ECOWAS send invitation to the Electoral Commission of all the member states to send representative. The ministry responsible for ECOWAS, in the case of Liberia, is a foreign ministry, they will send representative. We also invite civil society. But sometimes we want to increase our quota. We want more people. So like the elections in Benin, I actually spoke to
You want more Liberians?
Definitely. Because you go to some of these missions, you see a lot of people, like for example, this mission, you see a lot of Gambians, for example. So we want to see, now, the president of the ECOWAS Commission comes from Gambia, yes, the head of the elections comes from Gambia, yes, and it's only fair that they will want people in, but sometimes you also want to see, I mean, if I walk in the hall, you know, when I walked in the room and I saw your colleague here, and I didn't even know you know, and you say you are Liberian, you know, I was excited because for me it's not who you know, it's just about your country flag being represented, and I was extremely excited about it.
That's wonderful, and I truly appreciate the fact that you even highlighted that there's a need for more Liberians participating in more Liberian institutions. But what message do you have for Cape Verdean who may be watching the live or pre-recorded and all of that? What message do you have for them as per this election?
Well, I just want them to continue to maintain their democratic credentials. We all admire them. In all of our reports, when we're using West Africa as an example for elections, we use Cape Verde. Cape Verde is way on the top, on the high top. Cape Verde is there. We hope that they can maintain it. We hope that they go through a free, fair, and transparent process tomorrow, and the outcome of the result. Today, your colleague was with us today when we met the opposition leaders, and they all made a declaration that they will respect the outcome of the elections. We do that in every member state. So I hope they will respect the outcome of the election, and I hope the best for Cape Verde, and I wish them the best of luck as they continue the path of democracy.
Just in one sentence, what message would you give out to Cape Verdean who are currently watching you as per tomorrow's election as they go to the ballot box?
Go and vote for democracy. Do your best and represent your country.
What's of the rest of West Africa about their democratic process?
Well, we hope, but also coming back to Cape Verde, Cape Verde there are more Cape Verdeans outside Cape Verde than in Cape Verde. So, and they have a huge diaspora vote. So, there are people running campaign now in Sao Tome, for example, that have a huge population there. In Brazil, in other countries, that they will be voting for members of parliament to represent them here. We don't have that in Liberia too. Like Guinea do voting outside the country. For example, diaspora vote. Thank you. The last election, people voted at the SKD complex. People voted in Ganta, and those results came in and were counted. In Cape Verde, they do the same thing in Cape Verde. So maybe in Liberia, we have a huge diaspora community in the U.S., for example. Maybe that's something we should start looking into, where our Liberians, because the remittance that comes from the U.S. into Liberia is huge. And if they are part of the political decision-making process, it also pays back to them what they give to their country. So it's very important. That's something we might have to look into too. But for other West African countries, in the last few years, it hasn't been too good in the ECOWAS region as regards the coup d'etat, deviating from political representation to military takeover, like we had in Guinea. Now they have returned to democratic rule, but we still have that in Niger, we have that in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and we're happy that the coup in Benin was unsuccessful thanks to Nigeria. But we hope that other West African countries will continue to respect the tenets of democracy so that, as unjustifiable as it may be, there will be no appetite for coup d'etat.
Thank you so much.
My first interview with you, it was a pleasure talking.
Yes, thank you. It was also a pleasure hearing from you. But you've heard from the house's mouth. Tomorrow is election here in Cape Verde, Cabo Verde to say. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how I would like to come to a conclusion of this interview. Tomorrow is an election here in Cape Verde where we are, Anthony and Williams and I, as we get to carry you through. We hope you follow through, as also ECOWAS election observation mission is also a part of this. Well, Anthony, we've been here for quite a while now. 2 days?
Yeah, sure. Two exact days so far. And a lot have been observed so far since we arrived. You listen to the senator speaking about Cape Verde's democratic credentials in terms of holding successful, democratic transitions and elections over the years. And basically, you and I know that since we arrived, the entire Praia, the capital where we are, has been relatively calm. I mean, in your report yesterday, you did mention that. By the way, your report is exceptional.
Thank you.
Yes, so Senator Snowe just mentioned earlier that we were in a few meetings that he held with top political actors, the ruling political party, opposition party, other political actors. And he did mention commitments that they made regarding tomorrow's process. So obviously we all look forward to a successful election. I mean, this is something, like Senator Snowe said, that Cape Verde has done, so it's obviously not going to be strange.
Right. Once the fact that they've done it consistently, it's all hope that it continues that way and that nothing changes, because a lot of West African nations is looking up to them for their the peaceful democratic process and all of that, Anthony.
Sure, definitely. Senator Snowe did mention some of the countries in the region, that've got some, issues, some hurdles here and there with their democratic processes and all of that. He mentioned Gabon. He just mentioned Guinea that has returned to democracy and all of that. And come to think of it, most of the citizens that we spoke to, Cape Verdeans, that we spoke to, sounded very positive about tomorrow. It appears to me that this is their thing, and I've seen campaign processes in Liberia, and what I saw here is it's just quite extremely different. I know they put banners all over the place. They put music on pickup trucks. They go around, but it's like nobody cares. From what I saw, people are moving about their normal business. The way we put huge crowds in the streets. I've not noticed anything of that nature. Probably because this is like a legislative elections, but it's a thing here in Cabo Verde or Cape Verde. Just imagine we were just at the restaurant and the owner of the restaurant was so upbeat. He was like, I can't wait to go vote tomorrow. I got to go vote. And that kind of feeling, that kind of patriotic feeling to want to do something to make impact for your country. It is something I think, I'm not saying Liberians don't have, but I think it's something that we have to grapple onto. And I think, yes, we can be like a case study, like Cabo Verde in the coming years, obviously, from what it
I reckon with you because patriotism is everything for everyone. And what you and I have seen out here is that the people are more focused on their country as per who's running. What can this person do for my country, which is their country, Cabo Verde? So, yes, it's something that we Liberians can also take for them, Anthony.
Obviously, I mean, we did speak to Nuno in one of your reports. We spoke to Nuno, and the way he sounded, I was like, I mean, these guys are so refined. I don't know, respectfully, but in my mind, the way an ordinary Liberian will sound and start throwing jabs and start, like throwing attacks at politicians and all of that. I mean, not everyone like politicians, by the way. It's understood. But the way Nuno sounded was kind of different from the usual thing that I listen to. And I'm not trying to go the other way around about my country. I'm not saying there aren't positive Liberians who speak positive about Liberia when it comes to politics. But he also did mention some disappointments that politicians have given, but the way he sounded, like how he looks forward to them making the rightful choices for Cabo Verde, sounded more patriotic to me, and I think that's a path that we should tread, into as Liberians, definitely. I mean, and Senator Snowe did mention the observation mission also, speaking about the need for more Liberians to be on some of these missions. I think it's important, and why I think it's important is because it will inform us about how these things happen in other countries and how we can relate to these things and probably put them into infuse them into our system. You understand? The more observers out here in other election observation missions, the more knowledge, the more people in Liberia get to understand how it's done and how we should proceed about these type of electoral processes. I've seen a few Liberians here. Senator Snowe mentioned Councillor Greaves from the NEC. By the way, she was like, I'm talking to y'all. Yeah, she didn't want to interview. But that was, I saw Councillor Greaves. I saw like up to 5-6 Liberians who are here on the observation mission. And Senator Snowe was right. I think that's a need for more of us, or more Liberians out here, so that these ECOWAS observation missions can inform us on how we can proceed with our own electoral processes. But Constance, trust me, by the way, I want to say for those of our followers who have been following our content so far since we started, it's awesome out here. And yeah, it's really extremely cold, by the way, also. Yeah, and I think Cabo Verde is a nice place, and there are lots of tourists out here since we came, and I think it's beautiful out here. So tomorrow's elections day itself, tomorrow we want to be talking to some of the citizens themselves. How did the process go? What are they anticipating? What they're looking forward to? What do they want their votes to do for them? And you name it. It's a lot that we look forward to bringing on TV tomorrow and also on radio. Yeah.
I like that you said what they want their vote to do for them, and that's absolutely great, Anthony.
And I wanted to also say it's awesome working. This is my first time doing an international reportage with you, and it's extremely awesome working with you. I know we are at the office, but we don't do this often. I don't get to see you often, but trust me, it feels good working with you. Thanks a lot.
I cannot agree more. It also feels good working with you and Anthony. But Yes. But guys, this is it. We will be live tomorrow, hopefully.
Obviously, we want to try to go live. ECOWAS, the observer mission is, the media team is very professional, and they're trying to make sure they don't, put a lot out there. They don't want to do a lot of live videos. You get to edit and then produce a full report like the one we did. And so, yes, but we're hoping we get clearance to go live tomorrow and bring the process to the public.
The goal is to share the information so every person out there can learn from what's happening here in Cape Verde, as we are here as well to share the information with everyone. Join us tomorrow, hopefully, that we can go live. If not, we'll do a pre-recorded video and share it with you so you get the information.
It's kind of strange seeing elections on Sunday, by the way.
Yeah, it's something new. But yes, Anthony. Bye-bye, everyone.